talking to the local folks saying, hey, there is a lot of protesting we can do here locally for our own elected officials who you probably voted for, who are doing the same destruction of, in this case, nature that the Trump administration is doing, but people were too distracted with focusing on that one angle. Welcome, Wild Ones, to the Green Root Podcast, the official podcast of Eco Integrity Alliance, where we're on a quest to uncover the roots of the ecological crisis. In this episode, Josh is not around, so instead I, a forest owl, will be talking to you about a topic that I have observed from treetops. It is the idea of failures in activism, why community members, grassroots advocates such as yourselves are not able to protect my home in the forest. So I'm going to pull no punches or scratches because I don't have a fist, I have claws. And I'm going to lay out 4 reasons why I think campaigns fail and how to overcome them from the perspective of an owl. So if you don't agree with me, I'm just an owl. How am I supposed to know? So, all right, what is the first one? I think it's distraction. I think people are so distracted with so many things in their lives that they have difficulty starting up, much less following through on campaign work, which doesn't have to be onerous. There's something called the Ponderosa Pine model of grassroots organizing that Eco Integrity Alliance put out, and we're very grateful for that as the owl community. And it talks about how basically you can put in 30 minutes a month and you would be doing something significant. So take a look at that at eco-integrityalliance.org/Ponderosa. But the first piece of distraction can apply to a lot of things. Obviously, people are working jobs, they're having to work longer and harder. That's understandable. There's also a lot of entertainment, which I see you folks, I'm peering in through the windows and you're staring at the blue screens all the time. I think it's pretty incredible how much time people spend on social media, and it's hard to really understand the excuse that there just isn't enough time when there's so much time being spent on something as ridiculous as social media. So from this owl's perspective, maybe that's a good way to be less distracted. I think there are positive things in humans' lives, like you're socializing and going to fun events, but maybe it's worth considering that you can take a little bit of time away from that and you can focus a little bit more on protecting the nature, which you all seem to enjoy very much. So I see a lot of you folks out hiking and bike riding and rafting. As I'm in the forest, I'm watching you all, and I wonder what percentage of you take a percentage of that time per month. So your hours that you're out there, what percentage do you put into doing advocacy for the planet? I don't know. You're getting distracted. There are a lot of causes out there, and some of them are probably worthy causes. I'm an owl. I'm not that into human social causes, but what I can understand is why you would focus only on the human causes and not on the cause that makes your life possible, which is the natural world. So maybe part of the distraction is you're jumping onto a whole bunch of new causes and you're not focusing on the one that's underlying everything. I've taken some trips out of the forest, and I've gone, for instance, to a protest in Denver, and I saw a lot of people who were holding signs to protest the Trump administration. And from what I understand, the Trump administration is not great for my forest, so I understand that. But I talked to an owl wiser than myself, and they said that almost none of you even voted for Donald Trump, and that he isn't going to hear you in your protests in Denver. Now, I hoot to make my voice known, so that tracks. I don't know how your hooting would go thousands of miles away. But what I did notice was there was a fella there. He was a tall, rangy fella with a shaved head and a beard, and he was talking to the local folks saying, hey, there is a lot of protesting we can do here locally for our own elected officials who you probably voted for, who are doing the same destruction of, in this case, nature that the Trump administration is doing, but people were too distracted with focusing on that one angle. So yeah, I am an owl in the forest. I don't love that your all's federal government, which means nothing to me, is destroying my forest, but so is the state government, so is the county government, so are the local governments. Maybe focus on those and not get distracted with the shiny objects, which I, as an owl, know. I see a shiny object, I want to pick it up and put it in my nest. So don't be like me in that regard. What's another piece? Okay, well, laziness. So I'm an owl and I'm up at night and people call me lazy because I'm not out in the day as much. That's just survival. That's not what's going on. But I do see a lot of folks who I thought would be fans of mine are just staying inside and really not doing much of anything because they don't really want to get involved with it. It's too much work to do something that's hard. And as an owl, I have to swallow a mouse whole and then spit up its bones. That's pretty hard. I would think that you all could, go out and sit in a meeting for an hour and say your piece. So yeah, I think from my owl perspective that humans are really reluctant to expend energy. And I think that laziness is making it so people just don't want to do things. It's too hard. It's too much. Everything worth doing is hard, as I've found in my life. You think it's been easy for me to live in the forest and to make a nest in a hole in a tree? If I was lazy, I would be dead. So you as a species, I think, are becoming really lazy, and I'm hoping that you all can overcome that. And here's a trick that I have whenever I don't want to go out and hunt. I basically say, would I be happy with myself the next day if I just stayed in my hole? And maybe there'll be some temporary comfort, but I'm going to be starving tomorrow. So maybe think of the future self. And it's sad that me as an owl have to be telling you this stuff. So yeah, I do think that laziness is a piece of it. I think what I've seen is humans are extremely lazy. I see you all spending thousands of dollars on chairs to sit on. And I don't even know what a chair was until somebody explained that to me. So maybe work on that characteristic and get outside in nature. You've never seen a fat owl, have you? No, we're in pretty good shape because we're flying around. Maybe you all can't fly, but you can certainly walk and get your butts out there and do something for my home and my family and the other species out there. Something that I do understand, though, is fear. And the reason I understand that is we owls will make a call to frighten our prey into bolting. So I understand the power of fear, and there are even certain birds of prey that I'm afraid of that could take me out, and I don't even want to talk about that because it really freaks me out as an owl. But I do think, from what I've seen and from what wiser owls have told me, is that a lot of people who could be activists and advocates are too afraid to speak up. You're afraid that your neighbors are going to say something about you, that it's going to be awkward at the grocery store. You're afraid that an elected official is going to come after you? Are you afraid that your candidate won't get voted in and a worse one will get voted in because you criticized your candidate for doing things you know that are wrong? So I do see that a lot of your human species seems to be running on fear. Like you do things to get away from being afraid, and I'm not sure it's working for you, and it's certainly not working for us in the forest. So maybe think about how you can push back against your fear and maybe you are catastrophizing. Maybe you're making things up that are unlikely to transpire, and that is the reason that you aren't willing to put your voice out there. What I've heard is that there are a lot of folks who really do care about these issues, but very few of them will speak up in regard to these topics. And that seems to be the piece that is really missing. I know there are a lot of elected officials I've flown over and I've tried to crap on their heads, and they have been saying, well, we didn't hear from enough people. So that fear, that almost maybe I would say cowardice of putting your voice out there and saying what you believe. I'm not sure what happened to you all. A lot of you have done this, but a lot of you aren't. So I encourage you to please do that. And if you are somebody who does fight that fear, then I applaud you with my wings. And I know how difficult that can be. I know that there is really no such thing as somebody who has no fear. It's just somebody who learns to conquer that. So really think about whether or not it's worse to just not say something and not get any blowback and then have all of these things happen, such as nature destruction, or to go out there and voice your opinion and you'll find what? Somebody will disagree with you. Is that so bad? Somebody will leave a comment on your social media. That's something I've heard from people, is that they don't want to even put out their opinion there because somebody will say something mean. We owls live life and death. If we have an enemy, it will eat us and kill us. You all are worried about some scratchings on your screen. I think you should put things in perspective. And the last thing I'll say about this in terms of activist failures is I've seen a lot of infighting. So there are movements where people are advocating for wildlands and wildlife and they can't get along with each other. And listen, we all live in the forest and we all have different roles and we know ones to keep our distance from, but we're not spending our precious time and energy and resources attacking one another unless we are directly threatened. We're going to use that to provide food and shelter for ourselves, and only if they come after us are we going to do anything. So yeah, there's fighting that is necessary, but there's also other birds that I realize maybe they don't live the same way I do, but they are equally important for preserving the forest. And I learned, okay, to keep a distance from that raven there. Maybe we don't get along so well, but the raven plays a role. And I'm certainly not going to be trying to push the raven into the mouth of a coyote because I think that the raven is important. And of course the coyote is important too, but I'm a bird. I'm going to side with other birds. That's just the way it is in the bird world. So you humans may be focusing a little more on what you share instead of what you don't. I see a lot of you people who will be in favor of nature, but then you disagree on other issues, usually human issues, and then you can't work together, and worse, you'll try to destroy those other people. And I ask you to please keep the larger goal in mind, to keep the campaign in mind, keep the forest in mind, keep me, an owl, and my family in mind when you want to fight other people inside your movement who disagree with you. Now, of course, if they are doing things that are harmful for your movement, first of all, make sure that's actually the case and not just a disagreement or a different way of approaching it. But if they are, for instance, you're trying to protect creatures like me and the others are saying, it's okay to kill creatures like me. Well, they're not good members of the advocacy community. And yeah, that probably does need to be addressed. So what you do first is you talk to them. You say, hey, do you know what you're doing in this case? Do you think maybe there'd be a better way of doing this? Maybe they didn't realize it. If they ignore you or not even respond in a meaningful way, well, maybe then it is time to go public. But that is a small percentage of the grassroots advocates. It's mostly those big environmental groups I've seen doing that. And so maybe you can find ways to get along or just stay out of each other's way. And by all means, please don't publicly chastise one another because you have some sort of beef. It doesn't help anyone, and it really makes your species look bad. I don't know of any owls who hate other owls just because they fly a little differently or the way that they use their claws when they pick up a shrew. But you humans seem to really focus on that. So that's my advice as an owl to you humans. I don't expect you to take any of this seriously. I'm assuming that this is all just going to sound like hoo, hoo, hoo to you instead of actual words. So this is probably just a waste of time. But Josh was out for the day and I saw his computer was on, and I know how to push buttons with my claws and talons. So that's what I did. Hopefully this message resonates with you, and I would love to hear your feedback. Do you feel like these 4 failures are concerning for advocacy movements? Distraction, laziness, fear, and infighting? And do you think that there are ways to overcome any of these? Were my suggestions good, or do you have better suggestions? So let us know, and when Josh gets back, he'll be able to read it, because I'm just an owl. Woo! Woo!